Michael, my husband, was my anchor, until I found his emails to Ellen, his colleague, dripping with clandestine plans and veiled promises. No one can know he typed his words a blade in my chest. My breath caught when I saw him slide a heavy envelope to a stranger under flickering streetlights, his eyes scanning the dark like a hunted man. Then my kids Ava and Liam shrieked through the phone, "Mom, come home fast!" Their voices trembled with dread. I tore through the rain to find cop cars pulsing red and blue in our driveway. Ava choking out, "The garage? There's something wrong." I shoved past the officers, my heart racing, and froze at the sight stacks of cash documents stamped with Michael's name, a truth that burned like acid. His lies were a house of cards, but Ava's hushed confession about what she'd seen Dad hide sparked a fire in me. Something bigger loomed a shadow I couldn't yet name. If this story grabs you, hit that subscribe button and drop your thoughts below. Your support fuels these stories. Now let's dive in. Jessica Harper had built her life like a carefully crafted syllabus, each lesson designed to strengthen the future. As curriculum director for Seattle's public schools, she'd spent a decade shaping young minds with precision, fairness, and an unshakable belief in trust. Those principles had guided her marriage to Michael Whitaker, a defense attorney whose charisma had dazzled her since their college days at the University of Washington. They'd met at a debate club event where Michael's quick wit and warm smile had disarmed her guarded heart. 15 years later, they'd raised 2 children, Ava 14, with her mother's sharp mind, and Liam 10, with his father's easy charm, in a craftsman-style home nestled in Seattle's Ravenna neighborhood. The house with its cedar shingles and wraparound porch hummed with family dinners, board game nights, and weekend hikes in the Cascades. But even the strongest lesson plans could falter if the foundation was flawed, and Jessica was about to learn how deeply her marriage had fractured. The first crack appeared subtly like a typo buried in a report. Michael's late nights at his law firm, Whitaker & Crane, had grown frequent, his excuses polished but thin. "Big case, Jess," he'd say, tossing her a smile that no longer lit his hazel eyes. Jessica, buried in district meetings and grant proposals, had nodded, trusting his word, as she always had. Her first mistake. In their early years, Michael's ambition had been a spark driving him to win high-profile cases, while Jessica climbed the ranks in education. They'd been a team celebrating each milestone: her promotion, his courtroom victories with bottles of Washington Riesling and late-night talks on their porch. But lately his ambition felt like a wall shutting her out. The second sign was his phone. Once left carelessly on the kitchen island, it was now a constant companion, clutched tightly or tucked in his pocket, its screen angled away from her. When Jessica teased him about it one morning, pouring coffee as Liam begged for pancakes, Michael's laugh was sharp, almost defensive. "Just work stuff, Jess. You wouldn't get it." The words stung a jab at her world of classrooms and curricula, as if it were lesser than his. She let it slide, chalking it up to stress, but the moment lingered like a smudge on a whiteboard. The third sign was Ellen Crane, a junior partner at Michael's firm and niece of its founder. Jessica had met her at a firm fundraiser 6 months ago, held at the Chihuly Garden and Glass. Ellen was polished with sleek auburn hair and a laugh that carried over the clink of wine glasses. She'd complimented Jessica's dress, her tone warm, but calculated like a student angling for favor. Michael had introduced her with pride. "Ellen's our rising star," he'd said, his hand grazing her elbow. Jessica had smiled, ignoring the unease curling in her gut. But soon Ellen was everywhere mentioned in Michael's stories, tagged in firm social media posts calling about case details during Jessica's parent-teacher conferences. When Jessica asked about her, Michael shrugged. "She's eager to learn, that's all." The explanation was plausible, but it rang hollow like a rehearsed line. Jessica's unease grew fed by small inconsistencies. Michael's client dinners coincided with Ellen's absences from firm events. He bought new suits claiming they were for court, but Jessica found receipts in his car dinners at Canlis, a boutique hotel in Belltown, a Tiffany's box she'd never opened. She tried to dismiss it, clinging to the memory of their 10th anniversary, when Michael had surprised her with a weekend in Victoria, their laughter echoing over the inner harbor. But memories couldn't silence the whispers of doubt, and Jessica's educator mind, trained to spot patterns, began to piece together a puzzle she didn't want to solve. The breaking point came on a rainy Tuesday in October, Seattle's sky a heavy gray that mirrored her mood. Jessica had stayed late at the district office, finalizing a $2 million grant proposal for STEM programs. Her desk was a chaos of coffee cups, data charts, and post-it notes, her eyes burning from hours at the screen. Exhausted, she'd borrowed Michael's laptop from his briefcase left in her car after a rushed morning. She needed to check a file, but his email was open, a message from Ellen glowing on the screen. "Can't wait for tomorrow? Same place, 8 p.m. Don't tell her." Jessica's heart thudded, her fingers hovering over the trackpad. She scrolled each email, a splinter in her chest. Intimate exchanges, coded plans, references to our future. Michael wasn't just cheating. He was building a life that excluded her. Jessica didn't cry. Her mind, honed by years of analyzing student data, kicked into gear. She copied the emails to a USB drive, her hands steady despite the tremor in her chest. She recalled a moment from their early marriage when Michael had promised, "We're a team, Jess. Always." That promise now felt like a contract breached, and Jessica wasn't one to let a violation slide. This wasn't the time for confrontation. It was the time for evidence, for a plan as meticulous as her curricula. Over the next week, Jessica became a shadow in her own home, observing Michael with a teacher's precision. His late meetings aligned with Ellen's absences, confirmed by firm newsletters she scoured online. His new cologne, sharp and expensive, lingered in the laundry, a scent she didn't recognize. The kids noticed, too, their innocence sharpening her resolve. Ava, 14, and perceptive, grew quieter, her usual chatter about debate club replaced by long stares out the window. "Dad's acting weird," she said one evening, twisting her braid as they chopped vegetables for stir-fry. "He's always on his phone, and he yelled when I asked who he was texting." Liam, 10. And trusting chimed in, his brow furrowed. "He said he's working, but he smells like flowers sometimes." Jessica's stomach twisted, but she kept her voice calm, ruffling Liam's hair. "It's okay, guys. I'll talk to him." She wouldn't, not yet. She needed more than suspicion. The kid's words haunted her, echoing memories of happier times. She remembered Ava's first debate win, Michael cheering louder than anyone, and Liam's 5th birthday, when Michael built a makeshift fort in the backyard, his laughter mingling with their squeals. Those moments felt distant now, buried under Michael's secrecy. Jessica's nights grew sleepless, her mind cycling through questions. Was Ellen the only one? How long had this been going on? And what else was Michael hiding? The answer came by accident, like a misplaced file surfacing in a cluttered drawer. Michael had left his firm-issued tablet in their home office, forgotten, amid a stack of legal journals. Late one night, while Ava and Liam slept, Jessica powered it on, cracking the password, his birth year arrogantly predictable. She expected more love notes, but what she found was worse. Michael and Ellen were exchanging files labeled Client X Payments, encrypted but sloppily named. One document opened with a cracked key from a tech-savvy colleague, detailed cash transfers to an offshore account in the Caymans, linked to a case Michael had won for a real estate developer, Victor Langston, known for skirting zoning laws. Another email from Ellen read City Hall's taken care of. $50K should keep them quiet. Michael wasn't just unfaithful. He was neck-deep in corruption, bribing officials to protect Langston's shady projects. Jessica's breath caught, her educator's logic clashing with raw betrayal. Michael's firm handled high-stakes cases, his reputation a shield against scrutiny. But these files were a ticking bomb, proof of bribery, money laundering, and ties to a developer under FBI watch. If exposed, they'd destroy him. She saved everything to a secure cloud drive, her hands shaking not with fear, but with a cold, focused fury. She thought of her father, a small business owner who'd lost his hardware store to Langston's predatory developments 2 decades ago. Michael had worked for Langston early in his career, yet never mentioned it. The betrayal cut deeper, intertwining personal and professional lies. Jessica's next 2 weeks were a masterclass in restraint. She played the dutiful wife, smiling at Michael's half-hearted apologies for late nights, while building her case like a lesson plan for justice. She installed a tracking app on his phone, disguised as a security update, and watched his movements, late-night meetups with Ellen at a Belltown condo, cash withdrawals at a bank near Pike Place Market, hushed calls in his car. She cross-referenced the emails with public records confirming Langston's projects relied on bribed permits. Every piece of evidence was a brick in her fortress, designed to trap Michael and Ellen while keeping her hands clean. The kids' unease deepened their innocence, fraying. Ava skipped debate practice, her grades slipping her eyes shadowed with worry. Liam clung to Jessica, asking, "Is Dad mad at us?" one evening, as they baked cookies to distract from the tension. Ava's voice broke. "Mom, is Dad leaving? I saw him pack a bag last week, but he said it was for a trip." Jessica hugged her, masking her own dread. "He's not going anywhere, sweetheart." It was a lie, but one she'd make true. Michael wouldn't walk away on his terms. He'd fall on hers. Jessica's plan crystallized with the clarity of a well-crafted objective. She reached out to Rachel Nguyen, a college friend now an investigative reporter at the Seattle Times. Over coffee at a Capitol Hill cafe, Jessica leaked snippets of Michael's files, her identity hidden behind a burner email. "This stays anonymous," she said, her voice firm. Rachel, eyes gleaming, nodded. "I've been sniffing around Langston for years. This could blow it open." Jessica also contacted Tom Carver, a retired detective who'd spoken at her school's career day. Tom owed her for helping his daughter secure a scholarship. "I need surveillance," she told him at a diner, sliding him a list of dates and locations. No questions. Tom, grizzled but sharp, agreed. "You've got my word." Tom's work was gold photos of Michael and Ellen at the condo, Michael passing an envelope to a man in a Pioneer Square parking garage, Ellen depositing cash at a bank. The images were crisp, damning, but Jessica needed a public reckoning. Ava unwittingly provided the spark, mentioning a gala at Michael's firm, a glitzy event at the Fairmont Olympic Hotel, attended by judges, council members, and clients. Michael was slated to speak his moment to shine. Jessica saw her chance a stage for his downfall. She spent days orchestrating her trap, each step as precise as a lesson plan. Using a burner phone, she tipped off the city's anti-corruption task force, linking Michael's files to their probe of Langston. The tip was anonymous, detailed pinpointing a cash drop Michael would make at the gala. To ensure the trap snapped shut, she hacked Ellen's firm email, her password. Crane 2020 was laughably weak and sent a fake message to Langston's associate confirming the drop. She cross-checked every detail, her nights fueled by coffee and resolve. Failure wasn't an option. Her kid's future hung in the balance. The night before the gala, the Harper household was a pressure cooker. Michael was irritable, snapping at Liam for leaving toys on the stairs. Ava retreated to her room, her music a wall of sound. Jessica maintained her facade, serving dinner with a smile, but her mind was a chessboard calculating moves. She remembered their first date, Michael's hand warm in hers, as they walked along Alki Beach, promising a life together. That man was gone, replaced by a stranger who'd gambled their family for power and lust. The gala was a spectacle, the Fairmont's ballroom aglow with chandeliers and ambition. Jessica attended as Michael's +1, her navy gown masking a racing heart. Michael, in a tailored tuxedo, worked the room, Ellen at his side, in emerald silk, her laughter grating. Jessica sipped champagne, her smile a shield, her eyes tracking their every move. At 9 p.m., Michael took the podium, his speech on justice and integrity, a masterclass in hypocrisy. Jessica's phone vibrated, a text from Tom Task Force at back entrance. "It's go time." Her pulse surged, but she stayed composed, blending into the crowd. Minutes later, Ava's name lit up her screen. "Mom, come home fast!" Her daughter screamed, voice raw with panic. Dad's friend was here, yelling about money, and now there are cop cars everywhere. Liam's voice broke through, trembling. "Mom, the garage, it's scary." Jessica's blood turned to ice. She murmured an excuse to a nearby colleague claiming a headache and slipped out, speeding through Seattle's rain-slicked streets, her mind a storm of fear and calculation. Pulling into her driveway, Jessica saw 2 patrol cars, their lights casting eerie shadows across the lawn. Ava and Liam ran to her, tears streaking their faces. Mom-Dad's friend was shouting about money. Ava sobbed, clutching Jessica's coat. He left, but we heard noises in the garage. Liam, pale, gripped her hand. "It's like a bomb or something." Mrs. Patel, their neighbor, hovered nearby, explaining she'd called 911 after hearing a commotion. Jessica's heart pounded, but she steadied herself, approaching the officer in charge, Detective Maria Ruiz, a woman with a no-nonsense gaze. "Ma'am, we found suspicious items in your garage," Ruiz said, her voice clipped. "Cash, documents, possible evidence of illegal transactions. Your kids mentioned a man here earlier. Any idea who Jessica's mind raced?" This wasn't her plan. Michael was at the gala, not here. Someone, likely Langston's associate, had come to the house, using it as a drop point. She feigned confusion, her voice shaking for effect. "My husband's at a work event. I don't know what's going on." Ruiz nodded, unconvinced, and led her to the garage. Inside, a duffel bag lay open under fluorescent lights stuffed with banded cash and ledgers matching the files Jessica had leaked. A burner phone blinked with missed calls from a number she knew Ellen's. Jessica's breath hitched. Michael's recklessness had brought his crimes to their doorstep, endangering Ava and Liam. Fury coiled in her chest, but she played the shocked wife, promising to cooperate. Ruiz's eyes narrowed, but she let Jessica return to her kids, who clung to her, their trust in their father fracturing. Back at the gala, Jessica watched the chaos unfold. Via a live stream, Rachel had arranged her laptop open on the kitchen table. Plainclothes officers wove through the ballroom, their movements swift and silent. As Michael stepped off the podium, 2 agents flanked him, their badges glinting. Whispers erupted, glasses clinking as guests craned their necks. Ellen's face drained of color as an officer approached her, her emerald dress suddenly garish. Jessica's tip had sparked a raid, the fabricated drop backed by Michael's real crimes, emails, bank records, Tom's photos. Michael's charm crumbled as cuffs snapped around his wrists, his speech on justice now a cruel irony. The next morning, Jessica faced her hardest task, her children. Ava and Liam sat at the breakfast table, their cereal-untouched eyes red from sleepless fear. "Why did Dad do this?" Liam asked, his voice small, his trust in his hero shattered. Ava was angrier, her fists clenched. "I saw him hide stuff in the garage last week, Mom. I didn't tell you because I thought he'd stop." Jessica's heart cracked. Ava's secret explained the duffel bag Michael had used their home as a stash, his arrogance blinding him to the risk. She pulled them close, whispering, "You did nothing wrong. We'll get through this." Jessica's plan wasn't finished. Michael's arrest was a spark. She needed a blaze. His firm suspended him, and Langston's empire began to crumble, implicating Ellen and 2 city council members. But Michael was a lawyer, skilled at dodging consequences. Jessica hired Karen Voss, a prosecutor-turned-defense attorney, known for dismantling corrupt elites. Over coffee in a Fremont cafe, Karen studied Jessica's evidence, her eyes narrowing. "This is a gold mine," she said. "He's done, but we need to nail him in court." The trial 6 weeks later was a media circus splashed across King 5 and the Seattle Times. Michael, in a crumpled suit, pleaded not guilty, claiming he'd been framed by rivals. Ellen, facing lesser charges, turned state's witness, her testimony detailing their affair and Michael's bribes. Jessica sat in the gallery, her face a mask of calm, her hands folded to hide their tremble. Ava and Liam stayed with their aunt, spared the spectacle, but Ava insisted on attending the final day, her jaw set. I want to see him lose, she told Jessica, her voice hard but brittle. Karen's case was a masterwork built on Jessica's evidence emails, bank records, Tom's surveillance. But the trial's turning point came with a surprise witness, Daniel Reese Langston's former accountant, now cooperating to reduce his own sentence. Reese, gaunt and nervous, testified that Michael had orchestrated a cover-up 20 years ago, burying a lawsuit against Jessica's father, whose hardware store was bankrupted by Langston's predatory tactics. Michael had worked for Langston then, pocketing a cut while Jessica's family crumbled. Jessica's vision blurred, rage and grief colliding. Michael had known her pain had held her during her father's funeral, all while profiting from his ruin. The revelation gutted her, but Jessica stayed composed, her eyes locked on Michael. He avoided her gaze, his charm replaced by a hunted look. The jury shifted, their faces tightening. Karen pressed her advantage, presenting Michael's financial records, showing payments from Langston during the lawsuit. But the final blow came from Ava, who'd begged to testify. Jessica hesitated, fearing the toll, but Ava was adamant. He lied to us, Mom. I need to do this. On the stand, Ava's voice was steady, her eyes fierce. She'd found a flash drive in Michael's office hidden in a hollowed-out law book and given it to Jessica. The drive held deleted emails proving Michael's role in the cover-up, including a message to Langston Harper's case is dead. Payment received. Ava described overhearing Michael brag about outsmarting everyone, his voice smug. The jury's expressions hardened, and Michael slumped, his last defenses crumbling. Jessica watched pride in Ava warring with guilt for exposing her daughter to this pain. Michael's cross-examination was a desperate gambit. He took the stand, his voice smooth, claiming the emails were forged, the payments legitimate. He painted himself as a victim, even hinting Jessica might be involved, a bitter wife seeking revenge. Karen dismantled him, her questions razor-sharp, exposing contradictions. The jury wasn't swayed, their verdict swift guilty on 12 counts, including bribery, money laundering, and fraud. Michael faced 12 years, Ellen 3. The courtroom buzzed, but Jessica felt only a hollow relief. She'd won, but the cost was her kid's innocence. The aftermath was a slow rebuild. Jessica filed for divorce, citing Michael's crimes, and won full custody. The Ravenna house bought with her savings remained hers, but Michael's assets tainted by his bribes were seized. She sold the house, unable to live among its ghosts, and moved with Ava and Liam to a cozy bungalow near Green Lake. The new home, with its skylights and small garden, was a fresh canvas. Jessica returned to work, her colleagues offering quiet support. Rachel's article, headlined "Seattle Lawyer's Downfall," praised an anonymous whistleblower, and Jessica allowed herself a private smile. Ava and Liam bore scars, but began to heal. Ava joined a counseling group, her anger softening into strength. She wrote a speech for Debate Club about trust winning first place, and Jessica cheered, tears in her eyes. Liam, once clingy, found joy in soccer, his drawings of their new home labeled Fort Harper. One evening, as they unpacked boxes eating pizza on the floor, Ava spoke softly. "Mom, I'm glad you fought. Dad didn't deserve us." Liam nodded, sauce on his chin. "You're the boss now." Jessica laughed, pulling them close, her heart full despite the cracks. Jessica had always believed in strong foundations. Michael's betrayal had shattered hers, but she'd cleared the rubble and built anew. Ava and Liam were her bedrock, their trust, her blueprint. The past was a lesson, not a chain. As laughter filled their new home, Jessica knew this foundation would endure, forged in truth, unyielding to any storm.